Dr. Ayesha Jalal has left an indelible mark on the field of South Asian history with her groundbreaking work, The Sole Spokesman, Jinnah, the Muslim League, and the Demand for Pakistan. Published in 1985, this seminal book offers a nuanced and insightful exploration of Muhammad Ali Jinnah, the founding father of Pakistan, and his pivotal role in the creation of the nation. Dr. Jalal's meticulous research delves into the complex political landscape of pre-partition India, unraveling the dynamics of the Muslim League and Jinnah's leadership. Dr. Ayesha Jalal rose to prominence because of this book, which took its initial shape as a fellowship dissertation submitted to Trinity College in 1980. It is a book that has since been subject of much debate. Hardly a year goes by without someone writing something to disprove the main thesis of the book. It is therefore worth our while to take a deep dive into the book and see what it is about this book that continues to generate such vociferous debate. Dr. Jalal writes that Jinnah was one of the foremost proponents for a share of power for Indians in an all-India centre. Anxious to forge a common nationalist front against the British, Jinnah joined the Congress and regularly attended its annual gatherings. She points out very significantly that Jinnah never showed much enthusiasm for the principle of separate electorates, which were granted to Muslims by Morley and Minto in 1909. Jinnah only joined the All India Muslim League in 1913, 7 years after the party's founding, after having made his sponsors Muhammad Ali and Wazir Hassan solemnly assure him that loyalty to the Muslim League and the Muslim interest would in no way and at no time imply even a shadow of disloyalty to the national cause to which his life was so dedicated. In 1916, it was Jinnah who persuaded the League and the Congress to agree upon a common scheme of reforms. At the League's Lucknow session, Jinnah confessed that he had always been a staunch congressman and had no love for sectarian cries. He considered the reproach of separatism sometimes levelled at Muslims as singularly inept and wide of mark. In Jinnah's opinion, the League, this great communal organization, was rapidly growing into a powerful factor for the birth of united India. Between 1917 and 1920, many of the developments in Indian politics went against Jinnah's grain. The provincial bias of Montagu-Chelmsford reforms and the Government of India Act of 1919 and Gandhi's capture of Congress in 1920 with the help of pro-Khilafat Muslims. By declaring his support for the Khilafat, Gandhi secured the allegiance of an array of Muslim ulama and political activists for his policy of non-violent non-cooperation. This fusion of religion and politics left Jinnah cold in the wings. Jinnah derided the false and dangerous religious frenzy which had confused Indian politics and the Hindu and Muslim zealots who were now harming the national cause. At this point, Jinnah resigned from the Congress, a parting of the ways that he hoped would be temporary and not permanent. As revealing as his contempt and worries about Gandhi's methods was his total antipathy to religious militancy of those Muslims who had joined Gandhi in pushing the moderate nationalists out. A nationalist who preferred constitutional methods, Jinnah's moderation in politics was tactical, not strategic. He recognized the need to keep inarticulate but potentially disruptive communal passions at bay. A pragmatic, he realistically gauged how much the British were ready to concede at this juncture and reluctantly accepted separate electorates as a fact of political life for the time being, but not necessarily for all time. He did not approve of the principle. He was against its extension, but he recognized that Muslim politicians were not yet ready to give it up. Jinnah, the ambassador of Hindu-Muslim unity, had worked hard to get the Congress and the League to cooperate and deplored the opportunistic alliance between the Mahatma and the Khilafat Muslims. In Jinnah's eyes, that coalition, remarkable even in a country used to the oddest combinations, threatened the stability of existing political structures and orderly progress along moderate and national lines. After 1919, the Khilafat movement overwhelmed the League, and despite the fanfare of Hindu-Muslim unity, eventually broke the fragile constitutional understanding between the Congress and the League, which Jinnah had so painstakingly helped construct. In his later years, Jinnah time and again tried to unsuccessfully snatch back the unity, which for a brief moment after 1916 seemed to promise so much for the nationalist cause. In November 1927, the appointment of the Simon Commission opened the prospect of new constitutional reforms. Jinnah was ready to use the opening to try again and forge a common front between the League and the Congress. He faced two main difficulties. First, persuading the Congress to join him, and second, to bring Muslim provinces behind his strategy. The Congress was committed to a strong unitary center, while the Muslim provinces wanted a weak federal structure. Jinnah's own view of the future shape of the center was closer to that of the Congress, but he had to find a way of reconciling conflicting demands of the Muslim provinces. There was also the question of separate electorates. Jinnah was ready to give up separate representation in return for other concessions. The creation of a Muslim province in Sindh, a higher status for NWFP and Balochistan, representation for Punjabi and Bengali Muslims in line with their populations, and a guaranteed third of the seats in the central legislature for Muslims. However, in May 1928, Jinnah failed to convince both the Congress and the Muslim provinces. Meanwhile, the Nehru report, which made no such concessions, was rejected by all shades of Muslim opinion. Jinnah, the nationalist, concerned with securing a share of power for Muslims at a strong center, had to recognize the forces of provincialism and appeared to come out only in favor of a weak federal structure. But this was a tactical concession and not a modification of the ultimate objective. A confirmed centralist, Jinnah was merely seeking a way of uniting Muslims behind a common line and then negotiating a joint front with Congress against the British. His famous 14 points were a simple reiteration of the demands raised at the All India Muslim Conference in December 1928. Yet Jinnah's real intentions were revealed by his willingness to bargain on separate electorates provided the other Muslim demands were accepted by the Congress. Unfortunately for Jinnah, the Congress dismissed his formula for a Hindu-Muslim settlement, and Jinnah spent the next few years in exile in London. The constitutional negotiations of the early 1930s called for some Muslim voice. Fazli Hussain, the leader of the Punjab Unionist Party, a cross-communal alliance of Hindu, Muslim and Sikh agricultural interests, stepped forward to provide this voice. Fazli Hussain wanted separate electorates to be retained, clear majorities of Punjabi and Bengali Muslims, the separation of Sindh from Bombay, provincial status for NWFP and full autonomy for all the provinces. Until these were conceded, Hussain was against any advance towards a responsible centre. Jinnah was a potential, if ineffectual, threat to this position at the first roundtable conference. Jinnah opposed the notion of a weak federation, but only indirectly. He wanted the federation to be a real one and not a watered-down one. Jinnah, unlike Fazli Hussain, wanted advance at the centre before the settlement of the communal question. In 1932, the British gave their own communal award, that is, the MacDonald's Communal Award. In Punjab and Bengal, Muslims retained not only their separate electorates, but they were also given more seats than any other community in the provincial assemblies. Provincial autonomy was a pleasing prospect for Muslims of Punjab, Bengal, Sindh and NWFP, but what suited Muslims of majority provinces did not suit Muslims in those parts of India where they were in small minorities. Jinnah, meanwhile, returned to India in 1934 and resuscitated the All India Muslim League. He attempted to win support amongst Congress members by broadening the basis of League and following his old tactic of coming to terms with the Congress at the All India level. Jinnah hoped not only to get Congress agreement to the fact of Muslim majorities in Punjab and Bengal, but to do so without losing his position as the voice of minority interests. Congress's terms for a deal with Jinnah were Muslim acceptance of joint electorates, and this seemed on offer from the Muslims of East Bengal, provided they were given a secure majority in the province. Jinnah's talks with the Congress President Rajendra Prasad in January and February of 1935 showed, as Prasad's own words confirm, great possibilities for the future which a joint operation by Congress and League might have. As far as Jinnah was concerned, he said that religion should not enter politics. The award was not simply a question of religion. This is a question of minorities, he said, and it is a political issue. It may be that a minority has a different religion from other citizens of a country. Their language may be different, their race may be different, their culture may be different, and the combination of these elements, religion, culture, race, language, art, music, and so forth, makes a minority a separate entity in the state, and that separate entity wants safeguards. Surely there we must face this question as a political problem. We must solve it and not evade it. This confirms that Jinnah did not consider communal differences to be an obstacle to an agreement at this all India level, and that his solutions to the communal problem were cast in political, not religious terms.